shows are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Welcome to the Edventures in Tech podcast, talking the latest tips and trends in educational technology to innovate and engage your students. Here are your hosts, Andrew and Dan.
Hello, everyone. Once again, welcome to the Adventures in Tech podcast. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Dan.
And we want to welcome you back. And it's been a while. We are up to episode number 8 of the Adventures in Tech podcast. We've had a couple bonus episodes. Obviously, the Thanksgiving holidays in there. And, I fell ill for a couple weeks. But we're back. We're back.
I know.
You missed me.
I have. It's been lonely.
It's been lonely. So we're a little bit delayed in our typical distribution of our show, and that's because I've been out sick. And then obviously we did have the bonus episodes. We'll talk a little bit about, if you didn't have the opportunity to check them out, what a fantastic experience at the NYSCATE 2021 Better Together Annual Conference. It was great. Tons of educators. It was just good to be together. It really was. And seeing everybody and just learning, and it was almost a sense of normalcy that we've kind of been craving for a while. So definitely enjoyed that. And we'll get to that in a minute. But obviously, if you do like our content, however you are, we are reaching you, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeart, Spotify, please provide feedback and a rating on that platform. Download our podcast so you get automatically notified when there's a new episode. We do greatly appreciate your support. So that is something we definitely want to touch base on. The other thing is, it is the week of December 15th, and the Ditch That Textbook Digital Summit is going on right now. It started on Monday, and it will be ongoing through January 7th, of where you can access all of the videos and presentations. It's a free online conference, and you can still register. ditchsummit.com to get registered. Dan and I have had some opportunities to just check out some of the presentations. Matt Miller, we just talked to him prior to him launching the summit for this year. We are going to talk in January, February, have Matt on the podcast, but what a fantastic job he's doing.
Oh, absolutely. And definitely get in on that Ditch Summit. I mean, it's day 3 right now. On day 1, I saw a great session with Dr. Catlin Tucker for meaningful blended learning in class. There was a great video posted yesterday with Matt and Jen Giffen about powerful
virtual GIF.
Yeah, with powerful visual learning through sketching and for students. And then today was a pretty cool thing, something that I wasn't expecting from someone named Deanna Rice, which was 12 must-have items to make your classroom rock.
I love it.
And it wasn't tech items. It
regular
was just
items.
regular items and a Ring doorbell.
That's cool.
For transitions and timers.
Ding dong.
And you can have all different sounds. I was like, I need one of those.
Yeah, that's great too. And right now is actually really the time to get these things because everything's on sale or special or whatnot, through Amazon. But that's a great idea for transitions. That's awesome.
And I can't wait till tomorrow. I don't know what it's going to be like, but the topic is John Stamos, the 80s, and virtual guests for your students. So.
It's like I bring back Full House,
Exactly.
I love it. That's great. That's awesome. So if you haven't had a chance to register, please do. After the live components, for these next, few weeks or whatever happens, they're usually like the vault. Matt opens up and you're able to continue to see them over the break. Because we know it's just such a crazy time of year for educators. Our students are, their minds are not always hyper-focused on what we're really teaching right now. So because of the excitement of the holiday season and just the hustle and bustle. So definitely register, and then that way you'll get the emails from Matt and his crew in regards to how you can continually access the Digital Summit materials and presentations.
So it has been a while. So Andrew, you want to start off this time and tell us what's been going on in the classrooms?
Yeah, so it's been a long time is right. We did talk to you live last time we were up at NYSCATE. A lot of good things happening in the classrooms. Still working on, the mini golf course. We're talking about that with some coding. Obviously, Computer Science Education Week was last week, running into early this week. Code.org, we're using Codable with some kindergartners. So a lot of good things happening in the classroom in that regard. What about you, Dan?
Just wrapping up a lot of what we were talking about in previous episodes, using that AR, VR creative space with some 4th grade classes, and then also with the 10th grade class with To Kill a Mockingbird, and the students in there, I mean, there was a lot of choice. A lot of them decided to build escape rooms.
That's great, yeah.
And it was absolutely fantastic. Just the level of collaboration and then also the critical thinking in order to not only build the escape room, but provide, the clues and this whole story. So there was a lot of planning that went into the escape rooms, and I do have to thank Matt Miller and Ditch That Textbook for all their escape room resources for students. It definitely helped out, but the students really took it upon themselves, and they really planned it out well. So they went and they created flowcharts, and they looked at if and then and all these different scenarios that could happen to a user that's experiencing their escape room, and basically problem solved along the way to make it a seamless experience that incorporated a lot of learning. So if you think about these types of activities, there's so much more that goes into the creative process than just producing something that looks nice.
Right. It doesn't have to be, a dog and pony show, for lack of a better term. It's really just, the creation aspect, which we always say is important for our students to have that experience and not just consuming what's going on. Another thing that Dan and I put together that we'll link in the show notes is a Merry Techmas. 12 days, I know it's a little corny. We got it. 12 days of Techmas, tools to help all learners. We did share it out with a number of people. I think, Dan, you put it on Twitter as well?
I did put it on Twitter.
So we'll be sure to link that in the show notes so you can check that out. Again, just a little fun around the holiday season as well. I don't want to say a ton of news, but there's been some updates, and we'll get to them in a minute. But, Dan, overall thoughts about the NiceGate conference?
Like you said earlier, it was great to be together. It was great to go and interact with people in the sessions.
Right.
You learn a lot. There's always that sense walking away where you feel a little bit reinvigorated.
Right.
I mean, we look at all these different tech tools, but we also look at, all these different instructional approaches and, things that you've been doing through conversations. A new light is put upon it, and then it gets your wheels turning again. So definitely came back reinvigorated, excited to start new things, new projects, really excited to start podcasting in the classroom, not us, but the student podcasting.
Yeah, that's coming.
Started working with an elementary school class with creating blogs and podcasts, so have that up and running. So a lot of the ideas I was able to take and transfer over into our daily work.
Definitely makes you feel refreshed. I also want to say I know we both are super appreciative. We had fantastic attendance at all three of our presentations that we presented on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the conference. It was just a phenomenal experience. Everybody was just overwhelming. Like, they just loved what we had to share, and we were able to share our voice and made those connections that have continued on, and how can we help them in kind of lifting up their colleagues. So again, that's another component where not just us learning, but just hearing from people with the like mindset of us, and it's really invigorating in that way. And it was great. We got to hang out with Eric Kurtz a little bit.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, so Eric did some great presentations for Google EDU. So we're able to talk with him, and going to have him on the podcast at a later episode. We also have Moat, right?
And I got a new sticker.
That is a nice new sticker. Dan's all about the stickers. Control, Alt, Achieve. Eric's just got phenomenal content that he puts out there as well. So definitely check out Eric. So NiceGate was great. Ditch Summit's going on now. Dan, you're going to ask me the question. What do we talk about after this? I have no idea. So
there'll be something.
There'll be something coming up. Book studies, everything. We'll keep you posted on that. So as far as the weekly windup goes, and this was something that came from Eric. Dan, you want to talk about how can you? We always talk about the space in Google Slides. Yes, we know it's a presentation tool, but we talk about drag and drop for our students, and to maximize space. Eric has come up with some very crafty and creative ways. So what do you got, Dan?
Well, that's the thing. I love the drag and drop activities in Google Slides, but there is a lack of space, because for students to work on drag and drop, they have to work on it in edit mode. So that puts the timeline on the left, the notes on the bottom. So I know we'll put a link to it to his blog in the show notes, but there's some tricks that you'll be able to use to maximize the space in Google Slides to do this. There's 4 built-in settings that can be used to clear away all the extra panels and menus. So there's a cool tutorial that will take you through. So just getting rid of the speaker notes is going to open up all that space on the bottom. And, second option is to drag that speaker notes bar, again, all the way to the bottom and drag it back up so you can just get rid of it. You can get rid of that film strip section, that timeline on the left, and then hide that as well.
Yep. And there's a couple others, get, full screen and menus. He's got a good lengthy post about it to maximize your space in Google Slides. So we'll link that. Definitely check it out. See if it's useful for you as you create those drag and drop activities in Google Slides. Now, speaking of Google continues to do minor tweaks here and there. One of the most recent ones was customizing tables in Google Docs. And there's a lot of things you can do now. You can pin a table header row to repeat on each page. Designate that a row should not be split across pages. You can quickly add and arrange columns and rows, sort the tables to organize that data. If you're not a big fan of sheets, maybe you're using those tables to organize your data completely in the Google Docs, and then you can use a new table sidebar to manage those properties. So it definitely allows you to display information in a document where you don't want to have it in a spreadsheet, because spreadsheets sometimes, as we've talked about previously, they scare people. They're scary. So definitely another way for you to kind of utilize the table features, in Google Docs. And again, we'll share the post for it. It definitely rapid release. It's an extended rollout, but it was starting December 7th. Scheduled release domains, it should start on the 22nd of December, and it'll be available to everybody. All right, Dan, we also have something from Matt, right?
We do. Matt Miller, just looking at the end of the year and with everything that's going on in the classroom, but he just put an updated blog post out looking at 30 sites for students with free time on their hands. So I think that's definitely worth looking at, but you'll find lots of sites packed full of learning that students can peruse on their own. So they include Free Rice, Bean, City Guesser, iCivics, Wonderopolis, 5 Clue Challenge, Pixar in a Box, Dollar Street, Radio Garden, and more.
Awesome. And ending it up with Matt, he did also have 15 ideas for digital end-of-semester final projects. Not going to go through all 15. That's something we could definitely have with a conversation with him when he's on the podcast. We'll put the post out there. You could take a look at it and see all of the ideas that Matt has for those end-of-semester projects. Trying to, again, make the students the creators, not just consuming something or, a regular formative assessment at the end of a unit, to really demonstrate learning. So what else? Anything else, Dan?
I'm looking over. There is another Google Workspace updates. You can now set tasks to repeat in Google Calendar. So you can create tasks with recurrence rules, edit the rules of an existing task, and set an end condition for a rule.
Yeah, I use tasks here and there. I think it could be underutilized depending upon what you're trying to accomplish. It does have its use, and, sometimes you need those reminders. So, like, for example, Dan and I make sure we do our show notes or whatever it is. We have those tasks assigned. Now it'll make it a lot easier for us to, repeat them in our Google Calendar, just to keep us on point. And, big fans of Screencastify. They have shorts. They got updates. Dan, what do you got?
So Screencastify, coming to the end of the year, posted some great resources for teachers. One of them is Screencastify Shorts. And what this is an on-demand PD for teachers looking for ideas, using video and different things. So, some of the settings some of the sessions that you can look at is using emojis with interactive questions, input data, output success, app smashing with screencasting. There's a whole design series, and then a YouTube Your Classroom.
That's great.
So definitely check out the Screencastify Shorts.
Yeah, and I got to say, Screencastify, just from September on, or August, they've really, really updated their product.
Oh, absolutely.
Between the Screencastify Submit and the Shorts. And I think we all realize how powerful of a tool it is and how much it was utilized with asynchronous learning. It's so easy to reach that student who may be having a challenge with a math problem. I just know specifically at home, my daughter's had some struggles with math content. but it's so easy to create a 2-minute video, right? Demonstrating that problem so that family members, guardians at home can assist, the teaching that's learning in the classroom so the student can actually grasp the concept and move on and not become frustrated. And Screencastify is really, they're just cooking up all kinds of good stuff. What else you got?
And especially with Screencastify and the ability to put in interactive questions in your videos that you create is fantastic. I'm not sure if we mentioned it, but they did update in November that with the response questions, you can now check out data. It's organized by question, student, and response. So you can view all the interactive questions, and you can see how your students performed on each of the questions you asked, and you'll see how they performed individually and also as a class. So it just gives you those analytics. So talk about different ways of putting in formative assessments. Using video for formative assessment could be a great option.
It's just such a powerful tool that, as it synchronizes with your learning management system, like it's almost like you're getting more power. It's becoming more potent than Edpuzzle.
Oh, I agree. And also, if you think about video as an instructional tool, I can speak for myself, but if I'm learning how to do something, I go to YouTube and I look for those video instructions there, because then it's just hitting me on a lot of different levels. I can hear it, I can see it. If I have a written version of the instructions as well, I have that there. So it's hitting me in a variety of ways, which helps me understand it better.
Yeah, 100% agreed on that. So this episode, we wanted to talk about Wakelet Part 2. Wakelet is such a powerful tool. Like, it is incredible, and I feel like it hasn't even reached its full potential. I don't think, it's like it hasn't, blown up for everybody yet because it is so awesome. Really, like, I'm just overwhelmed by it. And just to recap for everybody, Wakelet, if you haven't heard of it, it's just the easiest way to capture, organize, and share multimedia resources with students, teachers, and the learning community. And that's important because they're integrated with Flipgrid and Buncee and Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams and GIFs and tweets. And it's just phenomenal, everything that they can use. They have not only the web-based, but they have iOS and Android apps. So everything can be embedded directly in there. And Dan and I were just messing around with another feature today that we're going to talk about with the classroom part.
Right. And for those of you that are registered and participating in the Ditch Summit, today I need to sit down and watch the rest of it, but I'm really excited because Matt Miller had someone on from Wakelet talking about all the different ways you can use it in your classroom and all the different things that they've upgraded to over the past year to make it more instructionally based. So I'm excited to watch that video. And then also today was a video with the end of the year Wakelet. That was just so
checking that out. The Wakelet wrap up, they call it, right?
The Wakelet wrap up, and they're also teasing some things that will be coming next year. So.
Like Screencastify, they're continually evolving and improving their platform, and most importantly to us, it's free 99. It's free, so that's the greatest part. It's free, and that's very important to us because there's enough things that we're paying for on our own, and it's such a valuable tool that even if there was a cost, I think Dan and I would pay for it, but free 99 makes it even better.
And what's also great about Wakelet is how serious it takes student privacy. So it is COPA, it is FERPA, but they'll even come out and say that they're New York State Ed Law 2D compliant. Like when we said in our paperwork, we had no problem getting that right back from them.
Right.
So they take student privacy seriously, which creates a great platform for students. And with one of those new releases, it makes it even better. Because originally it was, and you can share a Wakelet with anyone.
Anybody, yep.
But to come in and collaborate, their own policies were to be 13 or older, but now they added a new feature which makes it accessible and you can collaborate with younger students.
And the best part about that with the collaboration component with the younger students is it eliminates that extra step where you kind of have to curate and collate and find every student's individual space in Wakelet. Now, as what Dan's mentioning, is you can automatically import rosters through Clever, through Microsoft, through Google, and have a Wakelet class, right? And then they're able to all contribute to one space. It's like tiered, I'm thinking, and so, you have your Padlet, right? And then everybody can do that. And then you have Jamboard. But here, it's not just notes and pictures. It's anything. It's PDFs. It's GIFs. It's pictures. It's text. It's stuff from your drive. The amount of stuff that students can curate, and then you set it up how you want with the shelf, the tile view, the wall view, all that stuff makes it just such a powerful tool because all of the learning can be accessible in one place.
Right. And, I'm just going back to this update. I mean, you can now create that space with imports from Google Classroom, Microsoft, and Clever. And we talk about, and Wakelet comes out and says its tool is a curation tool.
Yep.
But you think about students being in charge of their own curation of learning. It's not just organization.
No.
There's a tremendous amount students can learn and develop skills and practices when they're curating material. There's so much critical thinking of what material will work, why it works, should I put it here, should I put it there, not to mention the collaborative aspect of it. So when we talk about curation, we're not just talking about organizing something in one place. There's a lot that can go into it and a lot you can build with your students in that curation experience. And really there's, it's a great platform for that. Of course, you can use other things like Google Sites and to curate, but the accessibility of Wakelet, the ability to share it, the ability to collaborate it and bring in everything easy just makes it so much more practical.
Yeah, it really is phenomenal. That update is really just so powerful, and the students now have ownership because they can curate what's important to their own learning. So again, they're creating their own learning journey, for lack of a better term, by curating and collecting all the stuff that's important for what they need to, at the end, create a product to show and demonstrate their learning to you as an educator. So that's great. One thing that I know we've always talked about, and we mentioned it, I believe, when we started talking about Wakelet, a couple episodes ago, was digital portfolios.
Right.
So we talked just now with that update with a classroom. So you can definitely have your, classroom contributing and creating these spaces, and like Dan said, the collaboration part. But now we can also talk about a digital portfolio and how powerful that is for every student to have a digital portfolio.
Just the ownership aspect of it. When the students are, you set up a portfolio process in your classroom, it's a great performance assessment because students are then responsible for curating the information that demonstrates that they have an understanding of a various topic or they've mastered a particular skill, and they can do it in ways that involve a lot of choice.
Yeah.
Voice and choice is very important. It creates engagement, and then it also creates ownership for students.
Yeah, and it also will provide students that opportunity to think deeply about the work that they're putting on there because they now have an authentic audience of what they're creating is going to go somewhere other than just a grade book. And they get to think deeply about their work with the portfolio. It lets them think profoundly and critically about the artifacts that they decide what work to showcase, what to put on display. Is this my best? Is this, what I want to share, as I'm demonstrating my learning? It really gives them, that opportunity. They're also able to kind of track their journey and understand where they are in the learning process. So, am I progressing towards the learning goals? Am I trying to meet this rubric? Or how am I being assessed on this? And they can understand their own growth over time. I mean, if you can have educators over a number of years utilize Wakelet as a portfolio tool, seeing that growth, I mean, especially at the elementary levels, because there's so much massive growth in even just one calendar year, but over a couple years, that would be completely powerful.
I mean, the options are endless. I'm referring to a Jake Miller article about using different spaces in Wakelet. But, this curation tool allows students to create their own online textbooks.
Yep.
So as you're sitting there and students are demonstrating their understanding, they can create an online textbook with multimedia that they create and put it all in one place for someone to access in one of the collection templates. I mean, just to incorporate their own writings, their own visuals, their own audio recordings, their own video recordings. And I remember doing this in Wiki Spaces years ago, remember? And the tool just makes it easier.
Yeah, and one of Dan's favorite things is always having collaborative student notes.
Right.
And Jake does talk about, you want to collaborate and curate these learning resources. Students can definitely collaborate, have these create these collaborative notes in Wakelet. They can type in their notes, but they can share pictures of handwritten notes, sketch noting, YouTube videos that they found helpful, online resources, websites. It's endless. The possibilities are endless in that regard for that portfolio.
Absolutely. And, there are issues. Not everyone's a one-to-one. Not everyone has digital access on demand, but the ability to work on and offline and then bring it together in one space just by uploading images of what you create by hand is fantastic.
Yeah, and what I thought was interesting, Jake even talked about it becoming a teacher webpage, which I'd have to really try to wrap my head around that completely. I would more want to embed my Wakelet on my webpage in that regard, but that's just a personal preference here. I'm a big fan with the webpage being its own entity because I see, I can see how it would work, but for me, I'm more of, not leaning that way. But something he did say, when we talk about having that collaborative team time with colleagues, department meetings, grade level meetings, whichever it may be, these are a great space for collaborative planning for teachers, sharing things. So what's that YouTube video that you shared? And then it's automatically there. It's not digging through your email or searching YouTube. So it's another way of, I get it, curating, but it's also collaborating with your colleagues as a planning space.
And speaking of a communication tool, for communication between your classroom and home or the community, Wakelet is a great way to put together newsletters.
Yeah.
That you can create, or even better, have your students create weekly or monthly or biweekly, whatever it is, newsletters to share the learning that's going on in the classroom. Again, that gives them a level of ownership of what they're doing in the classroom. It also creates engagement. It gives them a chance to verbalize or write reflections on what is happening. So it could be a great formative assessment tool for teachers for when they're producing these newsletters. And there's an excitement because there's an authentic audience. And the great thing is put it into a Wakelet space, share the link out, and you're done.
Yeah, the one thing that I also was working with a teacher on is they run a before-school book club and the QR code sharing feature in Wakelet. So as these kids are developing their reviews on their certain books and novels that they're reading, it's an underrated option. It could be huge for media center and libraries. You create that Wakelet space for book clubs or book reviews, and then you add a new collection for each book. Then students could join to discuss books. They could leave recommendations, which is part of our ELA standards. They can get recommendations. And best of all, you print out those QR codes, right? Laminate them if you want, and just stick it on the book, or if you're showing the book in a library or whatnot.
One thing I want to bring up, and this is something that I am working on, and with this new upgrade for students 13 and under, I'm actually thinking about switching what we're doing, but is student blogging. I mean, blogging is a great reflection tool, but it's a powerful tool for our students' development. PBL work says, like, if we are to empower students to take charge of their own learning and perform at high levels, having them publish professionally in the digital environment seems essential.
Yep.
So using Wakelet for student blogs is just
it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, especially with looking at the blogging platforms that are available. For those of us, in New York and dealing with EdLaw 2D, it's become a challenge to be able to, find a place to publish student blogs that's going to protect
student personal identifiable information, right? Yeah. A couple things Jake Miller also, had recommended. We actually had the opportunity to meet Jake, it's almost 2-3 summers ago almost now, at ISTE. But, we're talking about podcasting, and like Dan had, just mentioned, a little while ago, how we're going to be podcasting with a multitude of classrooms across, our district. But the power of audio, which we do have to get back to multi-track audio and tools for educators in that regard, it's undeniable. It's the logistics that are harder for educators. We get it, to wrap your brains around. Where do we host it? How can we help students hear each other's ones? How do we keep them with our own classroom? How do we distribute them? So if students are just recording their podcast or their audio in whatever tool is working, whether it be Flipgrid, Screencastify, and we'll go through all of these and talk about them. And then you post them within a collection on a Wakelet space. Every student's collection is like their own podcast. It's right there. And that's really, talk about amplifying student voice. You can't get much better than that. And you can have, share that out, if it's math talks like we've been talking about. That's a great tool for students to kind of gain learning in a different modality.
And the great thing about these Wakelet spaces is you can easily bring one collection into another. So if students are building that portfolio and they want to take examples of their blogs or examples of their podcasts, they can move it from one collection to another.
Yep.
And it just makes sense.
It does. It does. Well, lots of tips there on how to use Wakelet. Obviously, if you have any questions about Wakelet, please feel free to reach out on the socials, as Mr. Voice will tell you. For Dan and I, anything else you want to wrap up with, Dan, for Wakelet or anything for this week?
No, I just encourage people to go check out our 12 Days of Techmas. Yeah, corny title, but there's just some neat little things in there, and we just wanted to say thank you to everyone that we work with. We're so thankful to have the opportunity to brainstorm, share ideas, and then thank you to everyone who does listen to us. We really appreciate it, and we welcome all feedback or any questions. We'll share whatever we have.
Absolutely, yeah. So always reach out. We do thank you for all your support, with listening on all platforms, leaving us those reviews. Again, questions, comments, suggestions, we always say reach out. Tech hard, work smart. Till next time, live in adventure.
Find Andrew on all socials at @ANicolaTech and Dan at WCSD Tech DR.